Hi, I'm Daniel from Image Salon, and this is Editing Deconstructed. Every week, we take a different image and show you some behind the scenes in Lightroom and Photoshop to get the best out of your editing. In today's video, we're going to be looking at an image from Chrisman Studios. In case you're not familiar with their work, they are photographers out of Charleston, South Carolina. They have been documenting weddings all over the world for many, many years. And this is actually one of my favorite all-time wedding images. Dates back to 2007, I believe, from a wedding in Mississippi. And my wife and I, we were just getting started in weddings back in 2007. And this image really stood out to us, and it still does today. So this is really an honor to be able to work on this image. So the first thing we're going to do, as always, adjust our exposure, contrast. We're going to pull our highlights, which will really affect that candlelight, push our shadows, give it a bit of whites, pull our blacks. Play with the clarity a little bit, get some of that texture out of the building, some of the dehaze as well. Vibrance, we'll keep at -10. Saturation could go either way. We do want to bring out that nice warm candlelight, but at the same time we don't want it to be fluorescent either. So it's really a matter of balancing all of the sliders the right way and making sure that things pop, but they also look fairly natural. So we'll adjust our white balance, make sure we have a nice warm glow coming out of the candles and on the surrounding walls. Give it a bit of an S curve. Push our sharpening to +70, noise reduction to +20. In our HSLs, we might decrease our oranges ever so slightly. We want to control those, make sure they're not too strong. Enable our profile correction, but also give a slight post-crop vignette of -10. Now I like to play with split toning, especially on images like these. Really gives a little bit more coloring to our highlights and to our shadows. Important not to give it too much, so go back and forth, see how it works, see what it does, and if it works on your images. Once we're happy with the way things look as a first layer, which is really for our highlights, which here are really the candles, I'm playing around with the exposure just to get a better sense of how many layers, how many exposures we're going to need throughout the image. I'm guessing it's probably going to be 2 or 3, definitely 1 for the people at the bottom, and 1 for our bride and groom, just to make them stand out a little bit more. I thought about straightening the lines, but I really don't think it's necessary here. Sure, the walls are a little bit crooked, but it feels very natural, and I don't want to mess with that. We're going to crop the image, just remove some of that top a little bit, but otherwise keep everything nice and centered. Once everything looks good, let's go ahead and send it into Photoshop. Duplicate the layer right away and send it back into Camera Raw for our second layer. So our goal with this second layer is really going to be for the people in the foreground. All I did was add a little bit of exposure, send it back to Photoshop. We'll brush everything in, soft brush, 10% flow, apply it all over the people. Try to avoid the candles and the brighter part of the wall, but also brush in the darker parts on the top. And I like how there's a bit of that nice detail in the chandelier, as well as the wooden piece behind it. So I'm just brushing in a little bit more over there. And as suspected, we'll need a third layer for the bride and groom. Let's go a little bit brighter on them. And so this is what the image would have looked like had we corrected just for the bride and groom, and obviously that's not how we want the images to pop. We really want that differentiation in light between different parts of the image. So I brushed in the bride and groom, so now they definitely stand out a little bit more. Just going to brush in a little bit more some of those darker areas, try to even things out, but always making sure that the bride and groom are the brightest part of the image so that our eye goes there when we first look at the photo. Very simple, just a matter of dodging and burning the image. Similar technique to the way that film photographers would do it back in the day. All right, now that our layers are done, we're just going to add a little bit of an S curve, gives it a bit of that final contrast that we've lost by applying all of these layers. Let's go in and spot heal some of the distractions. Definitely don't need to clean up everything. One thing we'll want to do is get rid of those dust spots. Remember, this was shot back in 2007, so different technology at ISO 1600. Things got grainy very quickly. So the tool that I like to use for those is called Dust and Scratches. You'll find that under Filter, Noise, Dust and Scratches. And this allows us to remove noise that is read as dust by Photoshop. Applying a setting of 2 with a threshold of 50 really gets the job done. And lastly, we'll go in and fix just a little bit of that distortion horizontal that we're getting. Just gonna hit transform and then skew and pull the bottom corner ever so slightly to straighten out that line. And that's it, we're done. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Editing Deconstructed.
Right.